Mike Smith getting all from West Coast as he clings to the lead from Gunnabara. IREP is third at the inside. Cameron is fourth and is West Coast, and he keeps on rolling. And West Coast goes wire to wire in the Travers.
Live from the backstretch at historic Saratoga Racecourse, this is Racing Across America with Seth Merrow. Racing Across America is brought to you by Pinnell's Restaurant, a Saratoga tradition since 1922. 284 Jefferson Street, Saratoga, just minutes from the track. Thoroughfan, giving the fan a voice. Find them at thoroughfan.com. And Woodbine Racetrack. Pick, bet, and cheer on world-class horse racing north of the border.
Good morning and welcome to Racing Across America on this Friday morning. I'm Seth Merrill. We are live from the Saratoga backstretch. Thanks for joining us. Coming up a little bit later on, Maggie Wolfendale and Tom Morley. Tom with a big Grade 1 win out in Chicago last weekend. Of course, Maggie doing a yeoman's job over on the front side doing the paddock commentary and the afternoon television programming as well. Frank Vespi from the Racing Biz is in town. We talked to Frank via the phone very often. Wanted to get him to sit here so we can see him face to face, talk a little Mid-Atlantic racing, which is the focus of the racingbiz.com. And our friend Lenny Shulman. It's always fun to have Lenny in from the Blood Horse. We'll talk various topics with Lenny towards the end of the program. But top of the program, we kind of hinted at it during the handicapper support. They have a horse in today. We'll talk about that and much more. But Bonaventure Stables, it's the head honcho, Dan Collins. Dan, good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for inviting me.
Happy to have you on board. And we were happy also to get an invite to your Bonaventure Stable event down on Phila Street down in downtown Saratoga, kind of towards the beginning of the meet. And it was fun. There was a group of the Bonaventure people there, and some of the trainers as well, and we had a great time. As I say, we appreciate your extending the invite. But I always ask when the partnership people come in, that's really what pulls people in, the social aspect, and you get to have a lot of that up here at Saratoga.
It is, and Saratoga, as you know, is a very special place. It is for Bonaventure Stables. This is actually where we were created, and we try to have a family-friendly, fun event for our owners, and that's why we throw a big weekend for our owners, their family, and their friends. And we start on a Friday evening with a big social party at a local restaurant. We spend Saturday out in the morning looking at the workouts and the horses, and then we spend the afternoon in the paddock tent for a day at the races. So it's always a fun event.
Yeah, we were over at the paddock tent too, Sully and I, doing a little handicapping. Actually, I think it was my best day with Winners on Top. So you guys got to benefit from that.
I think it was.
There's some skeptical people sitting right in the front row. They said, "We're keeping track during the day."
They were, but they were fans by the end of the day.
Talk a little bit about the overarching philosophy of Bonaventure, because I know partnerships are all a little bit different. What kind of horses do you shop for, and you know what do folks get out of the Bonaventure partnership?
Well, I think every partnership is different, as you said. In our case, we're a family-run business. We don't have any salaries. We don't pay anybody any money. It's run by my wife, my two daughters, and my son-in-law and myself. And our philosophy is to keep our prices moderate so that we can bring new owners in and people can experience it. So we look to buy moderately priced horses. The most expensive we've ever spent for a horse is $130,000, which allowed us to still keep a 10% share under $20,000.
Nice. And again, the guys in the control room put up the website, more information, bonaventurestables.com. Highly recommended to go visit that for a little more information. I also wanted to get on just your background, because again, at the nice event we went to, you and I, the whole group of us were talking, and you mentioned that you started here in Saratoga. You're covering racing by accident, I guess, for
correct.
The Saratogian years ago.
That's correct. I was a summer intern at the Saratogian as a journalist, and the sports editor was sick that day. And the editor of the publication yelled around the room, "Anybody know anything about horse racing?" And I foolishly raised my hand and said I did. He said, "Hurry up and make the picks for today." I picked a 6-8 daily double. I told all my friends, "Don't play it. I'm the one that picked it." Wouldn't you know it, came in and paid $283 for that. And I got to go to the races and cover the big race that day, and I was hooked.
And again, a story that we can kind of all relate to, falling into things and then becoming hooked with some winners early on. And was that the beginning of your involvement in the horse racing game?
Well, it was the beginning of my involvement in the horse racing game and starting to follow it and understand it. In the mid-1990s, my family and I moved back from Chicago to the East Coast. And when we did that, we started to get involved in some partnerships. I learned about the partnerships, and in 2005, we went out on our own and we created our own partnership. And now we have anywhere from 70 to 80 different people involved, and it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, and as you say, it's a great way to pull people into the game, and that is something that the horse racing industry has been talking about for a few years now. We need more owners in the game, and these partnerships are certainly playing into that.
They are, and they're all different. Every partnership is structured different. I don't think that there's any one partnership that's right for everyone. In our case, I make a big push to bring young people in the game because I'm not the future of this industry, they are. So we allow young people to band together. We've had as many as 10, 12 people buy 10% share. They're all under the age of 25, and they think that they own Secretariat.
Well, yeah, even if you own that hair, if you get to go into the winner's circle, it's a lot of fun. Heck, if you're in Saratoga, if you get to go in the paddock and watch your horse saddle up, it's a lot of fun. And you do have one in here this afternoon. Let's talk a little bit about that. We talked about Leave 'em at the Gate a little earlier on the handicapping show. We're going to go back to early in the meet, July 25th, allowance optional claimer. Morrison, number 8, is going to be the winner, but number 6, Leave 'em at the Gate, will run second. That one comes back this afternoon. Rajiv Mara for trainer Leah Giramati. Talk about your chances this afternoon with Leave 'em at the Gate.
Well, I think we've got a really excellent opportunity if the race stays on the turf. But he's a decent runner in the dirt as well. Hopefully it's not really sloppy if it comes off the dirt. What we learned the last couple times is Rajiv has been working him regularly. He came back one day and said, this horse really needs to be up closer. He needs to be near the lead. So we let Rajiv decide the strategy in this last race. And as you can see, he was close throughout. He made a great move along the inside rail. And while the winner won, he was clearly the stronger.
Yeah, the winner kind of got the jump on him, but he went on with it, and as you say, was clearly second best in there. So it was a nice effort from Leave 'em at the Gate. As I say, Leah Giramati trains. Talk about a little bit about your trainers.
Well, Leah, we've been with Leah since we began. Our other trainer is George Weaver and Jeremiah Engelhardt. And what's the commonality among the three of them is they really understand the partnership game. They understand that our partners are going to come to the stable. We don't require them to come through me to go to the stables to see the horses. And our trainers don't know if someone owns 5% of a horse or 50% of a horse. They treat them all as if they were the primary owner. And that's one of the big, I think, benefits of the three that we use. The second is we look for trainers that have small, stable organizations so that we can be a big part of it. And also, they've never really had any issues with being suspended for drug issues or anything else, which is important to us.
Let's take a look at another horse. You and I were talking before we went on. Given the situation, not sure if Play Unified will get in coming up on Monday, but that one is entered MTO, 7th race on Monday, and I just wanted to show the replay of that one a little earlier in the meet. Come Dancing will win the race. Pacific Gate Gale will run second, and the number 1 Play Unified runs third. Again, you're entered main track only. We'll see how it plays out over the weekend, whether this one does come off the turf on Monday. But talk a little bit about Play Unified.
Well, Play Unified's a 5-time winner for us. She's won almost $300,000, which isn't bad for a $40,000 purchase. In this race, she got stuck a little bit in the stretch, had to wait for it to clear to make her move. Once she got clear and made her move, she was really coming. She missed second by 1 jump. I think the winner was a clear winner, but she was really coming at the end, and she could do some damage. Yeah,
when we picked up the replay, it looked like she was going to get nothing, and when she got out there in the clear and started to look, I see she was down at the fairgrounds over the winter. Where do you parse your horses out during the year?
Well, she went to the fairgrounds because she frankly ran out of conditions up here in New York, and she's a Louisiana bred. So we sent her down there to try a few of the state-bred stakes races. We'll see next winter. The same thing could happen. It's just a condition issue for us.
And we watched a couple of replays already, and you're wearing the stable colors right now. How do you come up with the silks?
My daughters did.
Okay.
We let my daughters choose. I chose the name, and my daughters chose the color, and they liked green and gold. We're loosely affiliated, as you know, with St. Bonaventure University. Their colors are brown and white, and I've had a lot of alumni ask us when we're going to change the colors.
Yeah, my brother's a Bonaventure alumnus, so easy for me to root for the Bonaventure Stable runners. I wanted to show one more replay, and this had to be one of the highlights of the partnership. Wanted to go back a couple of years ago, 2012 actually. We're looking at November out at Santa Anita. This is the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies Turf. Had to be a lot of fun and a lot of excitement running third in the Breeders' Cup race. Summer of Fun, the number 2 horse, will run third in here. Flotilla wins. What's the chances? Run second, but you in those Bonaventure Silks third in a Breeders' Cup race. Go back a few years and talk about the level of excitement here for the partnership.
So this was the second time for us that we'd been to a Breeders' Cup. We were able to get to the Breeders' Cup in 2011 with Royal Bonnie. But with Summer of Fun, the excitement was unbelievable. She just missed second in that race. She was boxed in a little bit in the stretch. And I'll tell you, though, that we probably were the loudest cheering third-place finishers in a Breeders' Cup that they ever saw.
That's the fun of the partnership. I'll stand in that bottom level of the clubhouse and watch the big screen for races. And some of the other partnerships will come when their horses are running, and the group of them, man, the partnerships, there is a level of excitement among a group of people, and again, that social aspect plays into it.
It is the social aspect. I'll just tell you one very quick story. It was with Play Unified as a 2-year-old here in Saratoga. We have a couple from Scotia, New York, Bill and Lois Janecki. They got involved. They came that day, and when Play Unified took the lead on the turn and came storming down the stretch to win her first race and our first race at Saratoga, I looked to Bill and Lois, and they had tears coming down their cheeks. And that told us we were doing the right thing.
That's the beauty of it. Dan, a great segue into the last topic we'll touch on before we let you go. You and I were talking before we went on. The 2-year-olds, that's always what keeps us coming back to the races. Talk about the 2-year-olds for Bonaventure.
We have 3 2-year-olds this year. Unfortunately, none of them will run here. They all had a little bit of nicks and growing pains during the training here. But they're very promising. We have a 2-year-old filly named Clauda's Run by Declaration of War out of a Hurricane Irish bred. So she is turf through and through. And you may have seen yesterday in the 5.5 furlong turf race, the 9th race, there was a Declaration of War that won going wire to wire. And this horse is with George Weaver, and George says she's as fast as the one that ran yesterday. So we're looking forward to her this fall. We have another one with George called Dark Storm. Dark Storm is out of Flatterer, and we're very promising colt. We're really high on him. And then the final is a New York bred, rather moderately priced, but Leah Giamatti is very excited about him. His name is He's My Lucky Fellow, and we're looking for him to do some great running here, if not at the end of this meet, certainly at the Belmont Fall meet.
All right, well, we'll be looking forward to those and wishing you good luck going forward. Good luck this afternoon with Leave Them at the Gate. We'll keep our fingers crossed that maybe things work out weather-wise.
I will, and we'll get to wear our glasses in the pack.
Well, I'll put my pair on as well. Dan, we really appreciate the visit. As I say, it's easy to root for you guys. I know there are a lot of local folks involved as well, so good luck going forward. And a reminder, it's Bonaventure Stables Day down at the Clubhouse Racebook today. Go down and get a giveaway item and a $2 win bet potentially if you're the first among the first 50 in. $2 win bet and Leave Them at the Gate. So extra rooting interest. Dan, thanks for the visit.
Thank you.
Dan Collins from Bonaventure Stables. We'll take a break. When we come back, Maggie Wolfendale, Tom Morley are in the house. Stay tuned.
Birdstone is an outside front. They're coming down to the finish. Can Smarty Jones hold on? Here comes Birdstone. Birdstone surges past. Birdstone wins the Belmont Stakes.
You know, and make better decisions, better choices, to know how to connect the dots. In horse racing, knowledge is a powerful tool, but not the only tool. Race results and replays, past performances and live streaming, wagering from all your digital devices. These too are important tools, and you'll find them all right here at Capital OTB. Capital OTB. Become a better horse player.
The backstretch workers are the heart and soul of what we do. They're the backbone of the industry.
People on the racetrack are very giving people.
It's a very oppressive community of people helping one another. We see it all the time.
Any help we need it. It's right there in our hands.
It makes so much easier in the family to have somebody like Nathan to help them.
Looking for a fantastic meal? Stop by Malcolm's, a unique farm-to-table restaurant experience. Located at 617 Union Street in Schenectady, Malcolm's offers locally grown fresh foods, mouth-watering flavors, an enhanced drink menu, and terrific service. Malcolm's is a sure bet during Saratoga season. Make your reservation today.
Chain, lifting it up, lifting it up, lifting it up. Pin sagging, gold grills, lifting, trilling the cut, trilling the cut.
Welcome back to Racing Across America on this Friday morning. Happy to be joined this morning by Maggie Wolfendale and Tom Morley, the New York Racing Association couple, the racing couple, as it were. Good morning.
You can refer
morning,
to me.
Seth.
I always feel bad when you refer to me as Wolfendale when I'm next to Tom.
I was actually thinking that last night, and I guess that's like a TV thing. If you've been in TV and people are familiar with the name, that happens a lot, that you just stick with it while you're on TV.
Yeah, it's exactly it.
Yeah.
So.
But we all get the situation. I will also toss in talking about the family. I saw you guys at the TRF fundraiser right towards the beginning of the meet, the spaghetti dinner, and your daughter Grace was toddling around. Super cute.
Thank you. Yeah, she is. She loves the horses. It's great. It's great to have her back at the barn. She has her own little pony as well, who unfortunately isn't up here, but nudge, nudge.
Yeah, but there's no stall space for her.
I actually pulled up there, and I pulled up the Twitter picture, and I was going to ask you how she takes to the horses, but I think the picture says it all.
Yeah, it does, and it's amazing how horses just know to be gentle. I mean, my dad's horses and I was growing up were the same way with me. You know, these big strapping colts that, you know, want to bully everybody around. Once they have a little child in their presence, just become little teddy bears.
Yeah, the picture is very sweet, and as they say, super cute, so congratulations. All right, let's jump right into it because I want to go back to last weekend, and we're going to pull up the replay of the Secretariat Grade 1 event. Carrick goes out to Chicago in career start number 4, wins the Grade 1 Secretariat, certainly one of the more prestigious races for that subdivision of 3-year-olds on the turf, which year in and year out I love. Analyze it, Catholic Boys, certainly the names, but boy, in this being only career start number 4, Carrick has certainly kind of stamped himself as a player in that subdivision. Talk a little bit about this race and what you were expecting going in and what you felt like when it played out.
Yeah, it was a tough one to gauge, Seth, because we had such a rough trip down at Delaware. Nothing went right for him that day. But once Johnny had adjusted the way the race set up down there, then he, you know, his final comment to us was, "Listen, this is a really, really talented colt," and that gave us the confidence that although we'd lost at Delaware, to kick on down to Chicago. And honestly, when they're this age and they mature as fast as he is, then they can almost get in front of you in terms of understanding their ability. And I've obviously been asked a lot about why we started him for 40. But at that stage in his career, that was the level of ability that he was showing. but that was on the dirt as well. And we could have gone to Monmouth or somewhere and tried to win a maiden special weight, but you know, we rolled the dice and took the chance, tried to buy ourselves the starter 50 condition, but honestly, after that first race, he started to show a completely different side to him. He was much more aggressive in his works. He was finishing better. He was galloping out better, and he's a very, very big horse. And since May to August, he has done nothing but physically improve. He's probably put on about 100 pounds of muscle, and he's quite a sight to behold. I did text Jerry yesterday after his first day back at the track and said, I'm not sure that he hasn't put weight on going to Arlington, let alone not lost any. So, you know, when they're doing what he's doing, they're very exciting to be around.
Go back to that debut effort for Maiden 40 down at Belmont and wins off by daylight, 4.5 lengths. So for folks who aren't familiar with the process, they come back to be unsaddled if they're going to get claimed that the tag gets stuck on. So when you see no tag, you're like, yeah, that's a bullet. Particularly given what he did.
On paper, that race came up basically like a maiden special weight, and we were 15-1 morning line, and we went off 15-1. He did open a lot shorter, but so somebody obviously had a little bit of money on him early. But at the same time, you know, it was a race where there were a lot of other claim options out of. I would have been amazed if someone had taken him. I think they took 4 claims out of the race. And so actually I felt a little bit more settled when I saw the race on paper, and I thought, you know what, they're not going to be having a look at us in here. So, you know, every now and again you have to play a little bit of poker, especially in New York. It's hard to win in New York. You know, maiden special weight at Belmont Park, you basically better be an overnight state caliber horse to win that. So we rolled the dice, we got lucky. But then ever since then, he has started to show a different level of talent.
And I have to, did you go to Chicago?
I did not go to
So you
Chicago.
were here, and you were doing TV, so I'm curious, because the timing, it seemed like you were probably had a free moment. Did you guys watch together? Where did you watch? And
we never watch races together.
Oh, that's interesting.
Never.
We haven't watched races together for a very long time. They never go well when we do, so we don't do it anymore.
Interesting.
But actually, the reason I didn't go, Seth, was because of the New York bred sale. We had 10 horses past the vet that night that we had to bid on. And my work was done. Michelle, my assistant, does an absolutely fantastic job. She flew down there on the Tuesday with him. Big thank you to Chris Davis and to Sophie Doyle. He shipped into Chris's barn. Sophie and Chris rode him while he was down there. Chris rang me 2 days beforehand and said, Tom, this thing is a beast. And so, you know, I knew he'd ship well at that juncture. And it was just a case of how good a trip he was going to get was really important.
I think Johnny, having ridden him in the Kent, actually understood, and you could tell as soon as they broke in the Secretariat that he knew what to do with him this time around.
Dropped his hands and tried to get him to switch off. And the opening fractions were very... You know, Arlington's the rail out in the middle of the track there gives you time to the first turn, and it gave Johnny time to, you know, just get him back onto his hocks a little bit and drop in and get him to relax, because he never did that at Delaware. Probably my fault. We decided that, having watched the races at Delaware that day, the turf was very speed favouring, and we were drawn on the rail, and I asked Johnny just to try and make sure he got a position, and we didn't get to the front, and the horse was then very rank in behind horses. So I was very pleased to see him finish the way he actually did in the Kent. But Arlington was a different ball game again.
And again, that was only career start number 4, so he's still learning. You're still learning him, obviously. Well, where did you watch the race? And I will say, I then heard you come back on the television. You were very composed when you came back.
I don't know about that. I had a couple minutes to decompress, that's for sure, but watched it in the paddock. There's a TV right there by the paddock office. I was watching it with about 15 other people and completely embarrassed myself, but good thing my wonderful PA and friend Harry Rice, the 4th, I think, what we say junior, was by my side, and I could just give him the good old bear hug. So yeah.
Well, as I say, you know, on that subdivision of 3-year-olds on the turf, the Grade 1 Secretariat, one of the big races of the year. So congratulations. And talk a little bit about what's the game plan going forward with Kara.
Well, the first thing was to get him home and make sure he was okay. He was tired for a couple of days, but then he started to bounce back. We took him back to the track yesterday. He jogged a mile. He galloped, and I would have given him one more jog day today, but he was so strong yesterday. We actually turned around and galloped, and he looked super this morning. So obviously the 2 races at Belmont stand out. We want to win in New York. We're a New York family, and You know, it's tough to win the Joe Hirsch with a 3-year-old, but it's been done several times before, Kitten's Joy, etc., or the Hill Prince. But I would say that probably giving weight to all the 3-year-olds in the Hill Prince rather than receiving it from older horses, we probably would lean towards running in the Grade 1 instead. You know, I put a lot of emphasis in weight, and you know, the Joe Hirsch, we'd received £5 from the older horses, and we ran a 2 1/4 faster than them at Arlington. So, you know, that's, if they want to give us a 10 to 15 length head start, then I'll take it. And obviously you have to start thinking about where next year this horse goes.
Sure.
I've always said to Jerry that this is a horse who, whatever he does this year would be a bonus, and the fact he's already won a Grade 1 is a, you know, I really do think this is a horse who could take us possibly to Royal Ascot, Dubai, etc., etc. He's a Giant's Causeway. You know, I'd love to take a horse like this home. If he kept improving in the right way, I wouldn't be afraid to do something like that.
Home for you, being overseas.
Yes.
And I was reading your Twitter feed, and you gave an appreciative tip of the cap to the Ragozin numbers, which came up very good for the horse.
Yeah, I mean, look, the number that he got on the Ragozin sheets was a huge number for a 3-year-old. But I actually think he deserved it. It was the fastest Secretariat, I think, in something like 17 years. And he ran a 2 1/4 faster than the Arlington Million. So for the I don't have a dig at them, but how the Bayer team came up with such a low number compared to Robert Bruce, I have no idea. And look, so thank you to Ragozin for being somebody who actually took it at face value and probably did a better job of handicapping them.
And as a trainer, do you use the numbers? Do you use some kind of figures in your training?
Yeah, I think we all look at them. You know, I think that some of them do a better job of others, and some of them give more accurate information in certain types of races and at certain tracks. But I am a big fan of the Ragozin sheets, yes.
All right, I wanted to toss in one other replay because I wanted to show one of your wins up here at Saratoga so far this season. I want to go back really early in the meet. La Moneda, am I pronouncing that
yes,
right? La
yes.
Moneda.
The currency.
It does mean the coin or the money, but she's actually named after a Chilean temple. And that whole family are named out of that.
I kind of like the money.
Yeah.
Better name for a racehorse. I like that. But again, this is going back to July 22nd. La Moneda, the number 1 horse here. Javier Castellano on board. Chart margin of 1 3/4. So a nice win for you early in the meet. What's the game plan for her? Come back.
She breathes this morning, and she will run in the Yaddo a week today.
Oh, okay.
Being a New York bred, and you know, she's owned by the Mosleys, who obviously have Proctor's Ledge, and she will. She, I believe, is breezing as we speak on the turf, and I presume will go to the Bolson Spa. I did nominate this filly to the Bolson Spa as well, in case Proctor's Ledge happened to stand on a stone or something. But she is a very, very talented filly. I have to say a massive thank you to Brendan Walsh and his team, because she wouldn't be in my barn without him. If he had a New York division year round, then she would be with Brendan still. So, you know, I owe him an awful lot, because she's been a superstar for us this year, and really he did all the hard work. He got she went for a winter holiday, and he trained her through the spring and then sent her up to New York and had to run her on the slop, and then we took over from there. So, but she's done nothing but get better and better. She started late last year. She debuted as a 4-year-old up here, and had a relatively light 4-year-old campaign. I think she had 5 starts, a couple of wins, but she's really kicked on this year, and she's becoming a very, very nice filly. I think she's definitely got the ability to win a graded stake in her future. But she's very good at a 1-turn mile at Belmont. There's a grade 3 called the Athenia down there. So let's have a go at the New York breds first and see how we get on there.
Sounds good. And I sat with the Mosleys at the TRF Spaghetti Dinner. Very nice, and enjoyed my dinner with them, which brings me to one of the questions I wanted to talk to you about. I know you're a board member with the TRF, Thoroughbred Retirement Foundation, talking to some of the people there. Early in the meet, or before the meet started, you guys made a visit to Wallkill. Talk a little bit about that.
Oh, that was really special, kind of getting to visit Quick Call, who's 34 years old. I mean, he looks incredible. I mean, a really, really fun visit, and got to shoot the inmates working with them, and the one inmate was just incredible. I mean, just the way he spoke about working with them, and you could tell he was completely at ease, and the horses responded so nicely. And, you know, it is the security level there is pretty high. I mean, they searched us. It was, you had to tell them exactly what was, going in and out. And so that was a little intimidating, because I had visited the one in Sykesville in Maryland, and I just, it was easy. But but just the TRF does great work. And they were the first ones to kind of recognize the fact that we need something for racehorses when they're done racing. And just kudos to them for keeping it going for as long, 35 years.
Yeah, it's become an issue for the races that they paid attention to over the past 5 or 10 years, and we have had some of the NYTHA people in recently, and they're now concentrating on also second careers and retirements and whatnot. The TRF does a great job. And speaking of horses, I had to ask you, because it was a week or so ago, I was sitting with some folks in the club, some of the clubhouse seats, and it was one of the days where on television you were on horseback, and it was a 1 1/8 race, and so you were right out in front of us. And one of the gentlemen sitting with me said, "Man, she's on a nice looking horse." Are you on the same horse? Is that your?
Yeah. Speaking of the Secretariat, Jaeger actually ran in the Secretariat 5 years ago.
There you go.
He had a bit of a rough trip, but he's has had an interesting life. He's a Medaglia d'Oro New York bred, who started off in England for Tom's former employer in Jeremy Nozita, and made his way to us. Won a race for us at Aqueduct. Unfortunately, got hurt in a morning workout, but we did the surgery on him.
He's had a very cool story.
And he's fun.
He's running a Secretariat. He's won a massive race at Ascot. He's won at Aqueduct. He should have won a race at Belmont, and then sadly he got hurt. But he's got he's unfortunately has to lump me around all morning, but then he gets the enjoyment of going to hang out with Maggie in the afternoons as well.
And so that's your horse that you use for television.
Yeah, that's him. He covers all the bases.
Like I say, he was getting a little love from our group. They were appreciating a very good-looking horse out there. Let's talk a little bit about that. I went out to the paddock yesterday, took some shots of you doing your gig out in the paddock. Folks can watch you every day on the simulcast signal, but now MSG and Fox Sports as well. Take us through your day and how you prep for a day at the races. You have the tablet, obviously, so you're going through the past performances, and I know a lot of what I appreciate and other people appreciate is not just what you're seeing that day, but you compare to what you've seen in the past. So kind of take us through the prep work that gets you into a racing day.
Well, Formulator is great for storing notes on horses. That's what I use. So when the horse is entered back in, that pops up on their PPs, and I'm comparing what I had seen the time before to what I'm seeing now. And with the first-time starters, that includes going through all of their pedigrees, watching any sales workouts, and too, XBTV, they put a lot of workouts too. So I get to watch them and how they move across a surface, the main track or the turf, and so that's kind of the prep work I do. I don't have to lean as heavily on handicapping necessarily, other than understanding how the race flow may play out, but I'm there just to give a full analysis of what I see from a horse physically.
And the MSG Fox Sports show, we saw you doing an interview, and we talked about you being on horseback. What does that involve, and how does that ramp up what your work level is?
Oh, it ramps it up quite a bit. I mean, just the changing and then getting on Jaeger, and luckily, we have a great team of assistants and people to help out and go get Jaeger ready for me. And so it's do my paddock analysis, hop on Jaeger, get out to the track, and it's great. Jaeger's funny that he might get a little excited, when they're running a race, but once I go and I turn to the jockey and start talking to them, he is just glued with the horse. I don't have to worry about him at all, so it's fun, but it is a lot of work.
That's fun. I never thought about that, but as a former racehorse, I guess when the race starts, he's kind of like, "Hey, I'm
he
ready."
wants to go with them, and it's like, no, you have to stay behind, and he doesn't quite understand that.
Also wanted to touch on the winter. You guys are down at the fairgrounds. Talk a little bit about the fairgrounds and how you like the racing down there, and how you like the city in general.
Yeah, we love the city down there, and look, they do a tremendous job down there. It's a really, really good racing program, and we don't have 200, 300, 400 horses like some of these bigger outfits, and it's very tough for us to compete year round with Chad and Todd. So it's getting away from those guys during the winter. Listen, the fairgrounds are still incredibly competitive. Joe Sharp and Brad Cox and Steve Asmussen, and the names go on and on and on. It's a very, very competitive circuit, but it's also a great place for a young family like ours. And I have to thank Naira for letting Maggie take a little bit of a lesser work schedule during January and February, and it means that she and Grace can come down and be with us down there. you know, we've had 2 good winters down there, but I think I probably have a better feel for what sort of horses I need to take there now. And certainly I'm going to take a good few more dirt horses with me this winter and have a real go at it down there.
Before I let you go, it's a question. I kind of jumped on driving in yesterday, and now I'm going to, I think, ask most people, but I asked Robertina Diodoro yesterday. It's just a basic question. Trainer, it's a tough job, up early, 24/7, 365. What do you like? What draws you in? What's your favorite thing about being a trainer?
Things like last Saturday. You know, they don't come around all that often unless you're Chad. But you know, it is tough. There's no point in beating around the bush. It's not a job. It's a lifestyle. And you have to be 100% dedicated to what you do, because at the end of the day, it's a very big responsibility. I mean, we have 50 horses that we have to look after. We're not just looking after them, we're trying to ask them to be elite athletes. And, you know, it's down to me to try and make sure they get to the highest possible level that they can, be a maiden 25 or be it Grid 1. You know, sometimes the most gratifying wins are winning with a slow horse or a tough horse or something. Just getting them into the winner's circle is huge. And I think that responsibility to the horse is probably the thing that gets me out of bed the most, because they can't look after themselves, so they need somebody to do it for them. And you know, you're trying to read the mind of an animal at the end of the day and trying to get the best out of them.
And what do you enjoy about being on TV? For me, up here is great, and that's one of the things I like as a handicapper and a host, because I think we're pulling maybe some new people into the game, and I kind of like that aspect. I'm sure that plays into what you do a lot too, but what do you like about the TV gig?
I mean, I obviously up here you are looking at, you know, the best horses in the country and the most competitive racing, and you know, also, as you said, kind of getting to interact with different people. I mean, you know, it's the connections, it's the horses and the horsemen and the owners and everything like that, but also kind of getting to talk to people you wouldn't normally see at the races, and that is drawn to Saratoga just for what it is and the history that it is. And don't get me wrong, it's a lot of work. It really is, but you know, it's very rewarding at the same time. Yeah,
we can see how the work pays off. I catch like the late night replay of the MSG Fox Sports, but you guys do a great job. I used to own a television production company myself. Now I'm on this side of the camera, so I know how both sides work, and you can tell the amount of work that goes into it. And clearly there's a high amount of work on the trainer side of the game. As I say, 24/7, 365, taking care of the horses. So both working at a high level in the game, and wish you a lot of luck going forward on the TV side, on the training side as well, with Carrick and the rest of the stable, and through the rest of this meet also.
Thank you, Seth.
Thank you.
Maggie and Tom Morley join us this morning. Appreciate it, and good luck going forward. All right, we'll take a break. We will continue with Racing Across America right after this. Stay tuned.
For 4 generations, Bruce Cerrone and his family have continued the 96-year tradition of delighting their local following and faithful summer crowd with the finest authentic Italian recipes. Classic Italian dishes made with the freshest ingredients and served in a home-like setting, where everyone is welcome. Some things have changed in the last 96 years, but not Pinnell's commitment to the finest in Italian cuisine. Pinnell's Italian Restaurant, a Saratoga tradition since 1922. 284 Jefferson Street, just minutes from the track.
Sign up today for Capital OTB's handicapping series and plan your trip to Las Vegas.
Visit Rivers Casino and Resort, the Capital Region's only destination for live table game action and the hottest new slots paying out millions. And they're off. Horse betting is now at Rivers Casino and Resort with Capital off-track betting terminals and live tellers located just off the gaming floor at Van Slyck's. Get in on all the action at Rivers Casino and Resort.
Funding your Capital OTB bet account is as easy as 1, 2, 3. 1. Easy Money. Clearly the fastest and easiest method of depositing funds into your account. Make deposits or withdrawals in just minutes. 2. Green Dot Money Pack. Gives you instant access to your funds. Green Dot Money Packs are available at thousands of retailers nationwide. And 3. MasterCard Visa. Simply click on the link from the funding page, enter your account information, and fund your account. CapitalOTBBet.com. Log on today.
Welcome back Friday morning on Racing Across America, live from the Saratoga backstretch. I touted at the top of the show, and now here he is, Frank Vespi from the RacingBiz.com. We talk plenty by phone during the rest of the year, and whenever Frank comes up to Saratoga, we like to have him here live so we can do a face-to-face. Frank, good morning.
Good morning, Seth. I appreciate you having me in, and it's always good to catch up with you. And before we go even one step farther, I do want to say this, something I never thought I would see, but we're seeing in the last couple of days. Seth Merrow's mug on Twitter. Welcome to Twitter,
I saw where
buddy.
that was going. I saw where that was. I said on the Handicapper Show early, Seth Merrill 2, if you want to follow me. So far, I've been out for about 36 hours, 2 days maybe. I have 3 tweets so far, maybe 4. But I will ramp it up. I will ramp it up. I'll get in a better rhythm. Somebody yesterday was like, well, you're on. Make some picks or something. And so I referred him. I was running around all day yesterday. So I referred him over to the Equidaily page where I had all the picks. But I will be better about that. Seth Merrill, too. Join the...
Never thought we'd
join,
say it.
join the...
Well, welcome to Twitter.
Yeah, it was... It's been. My first tweet was, "I'm often late to real parties too."
You're not exactly an early adopter on this. Equidaily was the first of its kind. You're a little late on this one.
Yeah, a little late on Twitter. But
welcome aboard.
I wanted to make sure it was going to work out before I jumped in.
I think it's okay now.
Always like to talk to Frank, and that's why we have you by phone, because the RacingBiz.com, highly recommended for coverage of racing in the Mid-Atlantic region. And just give folks you talk about racing in general as well, nationally, with a lot of the topics you cover. But specifically, you focus on that Mid-Atlantic region. What is the geography?
Well, we're Maryland, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Delaware, Virginia, West Virginia. That's sort of our catchment area. And really, the idea when we did this is, if you look around, New York gets a lot of coverage. DRF is here. Blood Horse covers it pretty well. Even mainstream media pays, particularly up here, pays huge attention to Saratoga. And Kentucky, Florida, Southern Cal, those guys are all getting covered. The Mid-Atlantic really wasn't, and there are more racetracks per capita in the Mid-Atlantic than pretty much anywhere. There's like a dozen racetracks within about 3 or 4 hours drive of each other, and so we thought, gee, here's a place that people just aren't paying attention to, and so that's kind of how that came about, and that's why that sort of geographic focus.
Yeah, again, it's great coverage of racing in that region, and historically that's been an important part of the American racing scene, so highly recommended to visit the website. I will also tout, you do articles about the news and events and whatnot on that racing scene, but also the contests are fun. I've played a few of the contests. I jump when I get a chance.
And we appreciate that. Yeah, we have free handicapping contests. We've been having a ton of them because we've been doing them with the match series, and we'll talk about that, I guess, in a little bit. But and the match series is kind of every week or every other week, and sometimes like the next race is on Monday. So a lot of things going on there. But we do have these free handicapping contests. They're a lot of fun. They generally focus on racing in the Mid-Atlantic. Little prizes, either prizes from the racetrack. We've got some swag, shirts like this, hats, stuff like that. So, and those have been a fun thing. People really have a good time, and it's kind of the thing. If you've handicapped half the card, you might as well get in and just make some random picks on whatever's left.
Yeah, as I say, I played a few times, and I like contests anyway, so I've jumped in, and I highly recommend it. And you look at the list, and you get a good crowd that jump in on those contests and maybe come up with a little prize as well. You talked about the most recent match race, and a lot of those match races tied into the contest. And I wanted to show, going back to the weekend, because I know you guys covered this race, there was a disqualification in the Polynesian, which was part of that match series. So I wanted to show the race, but I also wanted to give you the opportunity to maybe explain a little bit about that match series to people who aren't familiar. But we'll watch the stretch run. Number 5, Louisfield, will be disqualified as the 3-5 favorite after a nose victory, moved up to the win. Is it Lackey, the number 2 horse?
Yes.
Gets moved up to the victory in here. Talk a little bit about the Polynesian first down at Laurel, and then fill us in a little bit, again, background and info on the match series.
Actually, I want to go back. I think it's Lakai, now that I think
Okay,
about it.
that makes sense.
I think it's a Hawaiian word.
Yeah, no, that
actually.
makes sense.
This was a terrific horse race, the Polynesian. You know, Louisfield is really good. He's won one stake, but he's run second, third, fourth, and a bunch of others. He was fourth, a pretty good fourth in a grade 2 at Belmont, you know, kind of towards the latter part of that meet. So he's really good. And Lakai's a horse that had shown talent, but then, you know, started kind of not having speed. He had shown a lot of speed early in his career, then not shown speed, and they really wanted him to show more speed in the Polynesian, which he did. It was going 7/8, and that might have helped a little bit longer. Those two, as you just saw, slugged it out all the way down to the wire. DQ at the end. You could go either way on that one. I mean, you know, clearly Louisfield came out. Lakai came over a little bit. I talked to Damon Dilla DeVico, who's the trainer of Lakai, and he kind of said, you know, sometimes you win and sometimes you lose on those, and we got lucky there. And you know, you could make a legitimate case either way, I think. But it was a terrific horse race. But to your question about the match series, what the match series is a series of races throughout the Mid-Atlantic region. They're stakes races at a whole bunch of different tracks, you know, the Maryland tracks, Penn National Parks, Monmouth had a bunch, Delaware, Presque Isle Downs, and horses, there are 5 different divisions, and horses get points for participating and winning and running 1, 2, 3, and at the end, I think a horse has to compete in at least 3 of the races to qualify for points. And at the end, there's money available. So extra money for the top finishers in each of the 5 divisions, as well as overall. The different horse breeders groups are offering bonuses. So the real idea, I realize that's just a lot of in the weed stuff, but the idea is to kind of promote these Mid-Atlantic races and to encourage horsemen to really look at these races and say, that's where I'm going to go. I need to point my horse there because there's gold at the end of that rainbow if I do that. And this is the first year, you know, they had done it for about 5 or 6 years around 2000. Then it had kind of fallen apart for a lot of reasons for about 15 years. And they just brought it back. This year's the first year. And it's been really fun. And I think what we're seeing is some of the horsemen really have gotten it and are like, I got to be in these races because there's a real chance at money. And some of the other horsemen aren't quite there yet. And I think it's a really neat thing. I think it's a fun thing. And I think what we're going to see over time is more and more horsemen starting to say, you know, like Mary Epler's got horses that are leaders in 2 different divisions. And I think more and more you'll see other horsemen start to say, wait a minute, my horse could have won those races.
Yeah, the money starts to get doled out. People,
right.
But I thought it was an interesting concept when I read about it, and anything that kind of gets the interest going and maybe can expand field size, it's a win-win for all of us. Wanted to touch on some topics, too, that you have obviously covered on the racingbiz.com, but again, given the importance of that region to the racing across America, I wanted to hit on what you've been talking about. And one of the big topics going back a couple of months ago, to Preakness time, Pimlico. It's really been a story for 5 years or so now, and what's going to happen, and will Pimlico go away, and what will happen to the Preakness? And it's as I say, a topic you covered. We talked about it on the phone as well. But given the importance of Pimlico due to the Preakness on the American racing scene, what's the feeling down there?
In the history of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's kind of a Yankee Stadium, and, you know, Fenway Park, Wrigley Field sort of place in American racing. And, you know, it's from a journalistic perspective, Pimlico is the gift that keeps on giving, because we just keep having this story over and over, with or Pimlico. The situation right now is the Maryland State Authority is in the middle of a study process. They did the first leg of the study, which was to determine, you know, kind of, if you're going to do Pimlico, what does it need to look like at the end? And then the second phase is going to be, okay, if you do Pimlico, you know, what are the other pieces, not just a racetrack, but what do you do around it, and who pays for it? And so that's kind of what they're in the middle. And the thought process is here, by the end of the year, the Stadium Authority comes back with their recommendations in time for the legislature, which starts meeting after the first of the year, to consider them in 2019. So that's the process we're in. I was at a hearing a month or two ago at Pimlico, which was with the community to kind of say, what other stuff would you like to see here? Because I think where we've gotten now is everybody agrees the concept of a racetrack that has 10 or 20 or 30 or 40 days of racing and then is just fallow land in the middle of the city for the other 300 days a year doesn't make any sense. So how do you turn this into an economic engine for a neighborhood that really needs the help? And so that's kind of where things they're thinking about. It's a tough situation. I mean, the Maryland Jockey Club has kind of said, look, we're putting our money in the Laurel. We're putting a lot of money in the Laurel, and those things are true. We don't want to put a lot of money also in the Pimlico. We want to focus on Laurel. So if the state and the city want to come back with a lot of money for Pimlico, let's talk about that. But if not, we want to put our focus on Laurel. So whether the state and the city have money and how that's going to work, those are tricky questions. I mean, honestly, if I'm a betting man, and it turns out I'm a betting man, my guess is Pimlico doesn't make it too many more years. My guess is we end up at Laurel for all of Maryland racing, but politics are funny, and you don't know, and, you know, nobody wants necessarily to be the guy that says, well, we're going to get rid of Pimlico and we're going to leave this giant empty space in the middle of Park Heights. So a lot of things going on there.
Given the history and importance of Pimlico, it's a story we will certainly have to keep our eyes on going forward. A more positive story, however, as you have covered over the past few years, it was a negative as racing kind of disappeared from Virginia, but it looks like with the okay for those historical racing machines, and if folks aren't familiar, they're slot machines. But supposedly they're based on old. I had been reading about these machines for years and years, and finally went to Oak Lawn Park and walked in, and it literally took me about an hour to realize, oh, up in the corner there is a horse race going on. At postage stamp side. But that's fine. It has worked out for Arkansas and some other jurisdictions as well, but they've okayed them in Virginia. So it looks like racing coming back in Virginia. But the question there is, Laurel has kind of filled the gap now, and I think they're pretty happy with what they're doing in the summertime. So racing will come back, but it's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out.
You have raised the $1 million question here, which is exactly right. When Colonial was operating, which was late 90s to 2013, it had that niche where Maryland closed down, basically following the Preakness, a few weeks after the Preakness, and didn't come back until after Timonium, so early September, right after Labor Day. And Colonial filled that gap. And now Maryland is basically 52 weeks a year, or 52 weekends a year, and that doesn't leave a lot of space for Colonial. So how they work that out, and one of the things that people, that's important to understand, it's not just horses. I mean, they need the horses, but they need the horsemen. They need a gate crew. They need all tech officials. They need chart callers, race announcer. They need all those things, and those all traditionally came from Maryland. So how you work that out is going to be a challenge. Obviously, I know that they have been talking with the Maryland Jockey Club, and it's something that they want to work out. And Colonial's niche was turf, so which has been what Laurel likes a lot of right now. Now, there may be a way to work it out where maybe they could go a little bit later, maybe because it's a little hotter in Richmond than it is in Maryland, so maybe they could stay on the grass a little later than we can in Maryland, and maybe that works out, or maybe they overlap with Timonium because Timonium's all dirt. There's a couple different possibilities, none of which is ideal, but having said all that, I mean, it is cool to see Colonial possibly coming back. I mean, the draft regulations have been issued. There's a public comment period going on right now, and those are the regulations that are going to govern how many, not slot machines, historical racing machines there can be, and how many in a given place, and all these other sort of factors, and how many racing days you have as a result of how many machines. So all that is still being, in a public comment period, but we're going to see racing at Colonial next year, and the question is going to be, what does it look like exactly? But I think all in all, I think most horsemen say this is good news. More options are good news.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out, certainly. And one of the ways to follow, theracingbiz.com. Frank, before we let you go, you mentioned it a couple of times, and just fill us in. You and I were talking before we came out of the break. Timonium, a week they jump in there. The picture might have been on your website last year. The picture looking down the stretch with the big Ferris wheel in the background.
Yeah,
so if you like fair racing, Timonium coming up.
It's the only fair left on the East Coast now. No more fair racing except for the Big T.
Yeah.
And for people who didn't get enough of looking at my ugly face on this program right here, I'm going to be all over the Timonium broadcast. So.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, my apologies in advance. But no, Timonium, it's. Let's be honest. Is it great racing? It's not great racing. It's a fair, but it's great fun. And I really I'd recommend to people in Maryland, if you haven't been to Timonium or anywhere on the East Coast, if you can, get out there one day. Marty McGee, I'm sure you've had him on from the Daily Racing Forum. He always comes to Timonium for Travers Day, and he hangs out at Timonium and he plays for Travers. It's really fun. It's just a fair atmosphere, and it's one of the few places in racing, Saratoga being another, where when the horses hit the head of the stretch, everybody in the grandstand is cheering. There's people in the grandstand and they're cheering, as opposed to everywhere else where they're just tearing up their tickets and stomping off. So it's great fun. Timonium is always good. And this year they're excited. They got 2 stakes. That's up from 1 last year and 0 the year before. So the first Saturday of the meet, which is a week from tomorrow, Timonium Distaff, older fillies in there, is going 6.5, which is 2 turns at the Big T. And the following Saturday is the Maryland Coalition Stakes, also 6.5 older boys. And again, 2 turns, and we do get the glorious 3-turn mile races at the Big T. So always a lot of fun at Timonium, and you can follow us on theracingbiz.com. And also, I'm on Twitter, too, at theracingbiz. You can follow Seth and me on Twitter. Can't believe it.
And so you'll be on the simulcast signal?
Yeah. I last year I did it, and I'm going to do it this year. So we'll have kind of a 4-headed monster for the most part. Stan Salter, who does the Laurel and Pimlico signal. Jackie Savoy, who trains some horses and does some other stuff. She's going to be on. Gary Quill, who does the GQ Approach, which is our handicapping of Maryland racing. He's going to be on, and I'm going to be on. I'm going to let those guys do most of the handicapping and do more interviews and stuff.
The color comment.
Exactly.
I like that. Frank Vespi from theracingbiz.com. Again, Frank, appreciate the visit, and we highly tout theracingbiz.com. Visit it. Keep up with racing down in the Maryland, Mid-Atlantic region. Jump on board for some of the contests as well. Great way to keep up with, as I say, the news in a very important region as far as the American racing scene. Frank, appreciate you stopping by.
Seth, thanks so much for having me. Always a pleasure.
And good luck on your Saratoga visit. always have to throw that into the mix.
Well, it's not raining. Oh, it is. Never mind.
If you were a betting man there, you would have bet it was going to rain today, because you got to go with the favorite at this meet. All right, we'll take a break. When we come back, Lenny Shulman is in the house from the Blood Horse and beyond. Stay tuned.
cheer on live racing from Woodbine and Mohawk Park. Thoroughbred and harness action. The wagers are just the beginning. Watch award-winning broadcasts covering both breeds, incredible battles contested over the most unique grass course in North America. Experience the full fields with over 130 thoroughbred and 160 live harness days. Get access to free handicapping material and join the ranks of Woodbine and Mohawk Park players from all over the globe. For more information, visit woodbine.com.
Come on.
I want sales reports on my desk by Monday.
Whoops.
My bad.
Love racing? RTN brings you every live simulcast on your home television, plus live video streaming and race replays on your PC and mobile devices. To order, visit rtn.tv. RTN, a breed apart.
The backstretch workers are the heart and soul of what we do.
They're the backbone of the industry.
People on the racetrack are very giving people.
It's a very impressive community of people helping one another. We see it all the time.
Any help we need is right there in their hands.
It makes so much easier in the family to have somebody like Naita to help them.
A day at the track isn't complete without a night at the Horseshoe. Great food, hot music, and cold drinks. So why go downtown when all the action's just across from the track? The Horseshoe Inn at the corner of Nelson and Gridley.
You've been watching Racing Across America with Seth Merrow. Racing Across America has been brought to you by CapitalOTBBet.com, the premier online wagering site in New York State. CapitalOTBBet.com. Sign up today. Pinnell's Restaurant, a Saratoga tradition since 1922. 284 Jefferson Street, Saratoga, just minutes from the track. Thoroughfan, giving the fan a voice. Find them at thoroughfan.com. Woodbine Racetrack. Pick, bet, and cheer on world-class horse racing north of the border. And the new Capital OTB mobile app. Wager anytime, anywhere. Download it free from the iTunes Store or Google Play.